Hey everybody. Um, so today I'm gonna talk about Avengers: Infinity War. I um I want to warn you, this is super spoiler heavy. So if you haven't seen the movie, go watch the movie and come back. I do actually recommend watching the movie, but for all the wrong reasons. So so today, uh, I'm gonna I'm gonna basically be roasting the movie. I really I should start by telling you what my process is, which uh, because of you know record keeping and record breaking and money making, the studio always releases these movies on like a Friday, because for whatever arbitrary reason or because of work schedules they've been keeping stats on how much money a movie makes on the opening weekend. So it always has to be on a weekend, so it always gets released on a Friday. And I'm not trying to watch a movie on a Friday. I'm not trying to watch a movie on a Friday because they charge more. The crowds are obscene, and I'm not going to pay a ridiculous price to hear people laugh, scream, talk, chew, dick around on their phones, or fart. I don't want to smell that. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to have people jabbing me with their elbows. I'm not trying to live through that for extra paid money, you know? So what I do is I'll catch a matinee in the middle of the week when the theater is a lot less packed, the weekend crowd is gone. Um, there's a lot less noise, so I get to really, immerse myself in a movie and really enjoy it, even though I paid less. So more enjoyment, less money. That's my process, and for that reason, I didn't watch the movie until about 3 days ago. And I've really been mulling it over, and I really, I kind of want to love the movie, and I did not love the movie. And I've just been hashing it out. I've been thinking through it, and I've decided that I actually kind of hate the movie. Hate is probably too strong a word, but I really, it's not a good movie at all. So I'm gonna discuss that here today, and I'm gonna go into some details. Once again, and this is your final warning for spoilers. This is gonna be really spoiler heavy. So, uh, like I said, come back later after you've seen the movie because I'm gonna give all the spoilers here, basically. Um, So the movie was a real shit show, and it starts with the main character, which is Thanos or Thanos. Um, Previous to this movie, Thanos has only really appeared in after credit scenes. He's always uh, behind the scenes, working from behind the scenes, working from the shadows. During the invasion of New York, he was in his little floaty chair out up in space, but he didn't get his hands dirty. Um, and in the after credit scenes, in one of them you see him in his chair, and the other one he turns into camera and he smiles menacingly. That was the extent of Thanos up until this point. The rest was just kind of random mentions and conjecture. So this was his big coming out party. This movie was basically his origin. We were going to get introduced to him, his powers, his abilities, and boy did we. Um, and it was ridiculous. Basically, like one of the his main motivation is that supposedly he came from a planet and he's the only survivor. And The reason he's the only survivor is because they ran out of resources. Now, when you talk about running out of resources, I don't think they were talking about cars. I don't think they were talking about clothing or shelter. I think they were talking about food. When he says they ran out of resources, I think that he was talking about them running out of food. But you don't run out of food overnight, which means it makes no fucking sense that he's the only survivor. All right, in the movie Ragnarok, you got Asgard getting pounced. Within a week, they got attacked by Thor's sister and Surtur, and Surtur ended up stabbing the heart of the planet and blowing the whole place up. It kind of makes sense for that planet to die. It kind of makes sense that like the Asgardians are wiped out, and they didn't even get wiped out. Even during this movie, it's kind of implied that some got away in escape pods, but they got surprised twice in a week. They had to pile into ships, and they barely got away. And it kind of makes sense that they would get wiped out, and they still didn't get wiped out. So what the fuck happened on Thanos' planet? You know, I mean, they ran out of food. So what? I mean, that takes decades. That takes years, decades. In the case of a planet, it could take a century, especially considering that these are spacefaring people. Hell, in this flashback, you saw giant fucking ships in orbit, you know? Let alone their contact with other civilizations and other planets that are also spacefaring. So, how the fuck did they not just pick up and become like gypsies, you know? But no, we're supposed to believe that they like instantly starved to death, like overnight, and Thanos is the only survivor. All right, fine. I don't buy that even for a second, but for the sake of the story and my suspension of disbelief, I'll buy that. All right, so that's his backstory. Now, how about his motivation? An insight into his mentality. Well, that's all over the fucking place. Um, he wants to wipe out half the universe as a favor to the other half of the universe, I guess. And who the fuck is gonna know this? Nobody. The only people who know he's got the Infinity Gems or the Infinity Gauntlet is the Avengers, and they're not his fans. They're not gonna do PR for him, you know. And he's gonna use it to wipe out half of all the people in existence. But those people, they're not gonna get like an invoice. They're not gonna get like an email or a message in a bottle saying you're about to be wiped out by Thanos. They're just gonna know that they died. Their family members are gonna see them die or disappear, and they're gonna be like, "What the fuck just happened?" And that's it. So Thanos, he wants to do this, but he doesn't want credit for it. Apparently, he's showing off infinite power for an audience of the Avengers who don't like him, to prove that he's right to basically nobody because everybody on his home planet is gone. So I mean, it's kind of really anticlimactic. It's really nonsensical if you think about it. Um, and then as part of his mentality, you also got this really extreme opposite polar ends, to where life means nothing to him. He's massacring half of all the creatures and all the people in existence. He tortures Nebula for shits and giggles. He he's sadistic as hell, and yet we're supposed to believe, but he's got a heart of gold because he loves Gamora. How does he love Gamora? What since I mean, like, why? Why would he? You know, what's special about her? He even killed her mother. So that this supposed daddy issue he's got with Gamora, that it doesn't make any sense because it's not in keeping with anything else he's ever done or is doing. Um, the only way that's really explained is really bad writing. Gamora needs to be set up as his Achilles heel so that they can do an ex machina reversal in the sequel, right? So it's basically bad writing done on purpose to reverse everything that's done later, which means there's no stakes, no consequences to anything that's being done during the whole movie, and it's so blaring and nonsensical that it becomes a plot hole. It's a fucking plot hole. Gamora is a plot hole. His motivation is a plot hole. His history, his background is a plot hole. Because it doesn't make any sense. Um, then there's his powers. You know, everybody in this movie is like overpowered or underpowered, and Thanos is both apparently, because he's got these scars on his face, which means in past battles he's been cut. He's vulnerable. He's flesh and blood. You know, you can cut him, right? And that's really underpowered in a universe with fucking nanotech and magic and gods and hulks and space weapons and laser weapons and monsters. What are you gonna do if you can get cut, right? So he's got these scars, and then to further prove the point that he's vulnerable to knives, when Gamora goes to kill him, she tries to stab him with a knife because he's super underpowered. She knows him. She's known him for years. She knows that she can kill him with a knife, so she tries to kill him with a knife because he's underpowered. And yet he's not, right? Um, when Gamora, basically saves Nebula from the torture that Thanos is subjecting her to, Thanos just gives this throwaway line to where he's like, "Yeah, Nebula, she got onto my ship and she tried to kill me and almost did it." And I was like, "Really? How the fuck did she do that? I mean, did she use a knife? Or I mean, I know Nebula's a shit hot assassin, but I don't think she's using anything more advanced than a laser gun, laser pistol, whatever, right?" So Nebula's attack, Gamora's attack, his scars, they all say underpowered. But he's not underpowered because in the first 3 minutes of the movie, uh, he's got the power stone, and he takes out the combined strength of Thor and the Hulk. In the first 3 minutes of the movie, I mean, that is super fucking overpowered, right? And it really baits the question. It really baits a few questions. One is, like, how, if he's so underpowered to where he's vulnerable to knife attacks, how the fuck did he even get the fucking the power gem in the first place? I mean, that just happens off screen. We're supposed to take that at face value too. And then he takes out Hulk like it's a fucking joke, and he does that really cliche villain trope to where he just assumes that Thor is dead and leaves him, which is a mistake because Thor survives. So from point A to point B, from being vulnerable to knives to taking out that combo of Thor and Hulk, there's a Grand Canyon in between. And the only thing that we even remotely have to explain that is the possession of the Power Stone. But all that shit happened off screen, so not a lot of help there. Um, And Gamora, knowing him as she does, he's already got the Power Stone, and at that point he's got the Reality Stone. She still thought she could kill him with a knife. That's how weak he was before he got the stones, right? Gamora knows he's got at least a stone, if not two now, and she still tried to kill him that way because he was that weak without the stones, to where that even with the stones, I can probably kill him by chopping him in his neck. So, overpowered and underpowered, like simultaneously. Just like his background story, that's a contradiction. Just like his little heart of gold, that's a contradiction. His powers are also a contradiction. Um, in keeping with the overpowered, underpowered theme, you also have Thor. Like, Thor, he he restarts the blast furnace by holding the iris open, that fuels the blast furnace. There's an iris, and he holds it open for the duration of the process of making the super hammer, and basically takes the full force of a sun melting his face for that whole period. So he's overpowered, right? Or is he? How did he lose his eye again? Oh yeah, a knife. So apparently another person susceptible to knives, even though they can take the full force of the sun in their face for a long period of time. So Thor, overpowered, underpowered, we don't know. You know. Um Mantis, probably the most underpowered out of all the characters. Uh she she's like a one-trick pony. She does this telekinetic thing, or telepathic thing, and then she almost takes out Thanos. She totally fucking freezes him, and all she had to do was grab onto his head. So she got nothing to do the whole damn movie. She's one of the most underpowered characters in the whole movie, and yet she almost takes out Thanos, which makes you question once again: is she overpowered or is she underpowered? Right? And it also makes you question Thanos: is he underpowered or not? Because apparently Mantis can take him out. And that scene, it really bugged me for two reasons. One is, okay, like Star-Lord, he gets the news that Gamora's dead, and he spazzes out, and that's okay. That's par for the course because that's in keeping with his character, and that's within quotes the correct reaction he's supposed to have. But Nebula standing right behind him, and Nebula just got done being tortured again by Thanos. So she's super pissed, and the reason Thanos was torturing her was because she had gotten caught during her last attempt at trying to assassinate him. So she was trying to assassinate him, got tortured for her troubles. She's free now, standing 2 inches away from a frozen Thanos, and she does nothing. She doesn't kill him, she doesn't chop off his arm, and she doesn't chop off the hand that has Infinity Gauntlet on it. That is not in keeping with the character. So thanks for nothing, Nebula. The other thing that really bugged me about that scene was the comment made by Stark. He was like, "We almost have the glove off," and that really bugs me because I don't understand what the fuck he meant. Like, I know it's made of metal and it's a gauntlet. It's not really a glove, but it basically has the same dynamic as any glove, in that once you get it off like the palm, the work is done, because there's the only thing left is the fingers, and once you get it off the palm, it slips off the fingers, so it's basically off. So what does almost off mean? Because apparently, not only was it like hanging on to the fingers or something, hanging on to a thread, but it was it was still on enough to where Thanos, without using his other hand, was able to put the glove back on once he regained consciousness. So I have no idea what the fuck Stark meant when he said we almost have it off. But having like four superheroes yanking on it at the same time, and not being able to, like, I guess, get it off his fingers, that's kind of ridiculous, and it was just kind of pointless. So it was like a dumb tease, right? And it really irked me. It took me out of my suspension of disbelief once again. Um, Now, out of all the things that this movie could have done, should have done, would have done, there's one thing that it was supposed to get right, hands down. And that was teamwork. You know, the action scenes, the fighting scenes. I was expecting teamwork, like in Civil War. You know, you had Ant-Man turn into Giant Man. These guys, they never really fought together as a team, and they pulled it off, and they did it pretty well. Um, in this case, you had the Guardians of the Galaxy plus the element of magic through Strange, plus the new Avengers, Spider-Man, plus East Coast Avengers, plus West Coast Avengers, and they're all together. And where's the fucking teamwork? There's no fucking teamwork. And I get it. I mean, there's no real history, and there was even a clash of personalities between Stark and Strange. I get that. I get how that teamwork might not work out. There's also um, a real newness between the Guardians of the Galaxy, Spidey, and Iron Man. I get how that might not work out too. But what's the excuse in the Battle of Wakanda? Those guys knew each other for frickin' years. They knew each other perfectly. They knew all each other's moves. Uh, and they were fighting against generic fucking beast monsters. It should have been a walk in the park. And we didn't see anything. We didn't see anything smart, anything innovative, no teamwork, no coordination. It was absolutely ridiculous. It should have been the Globetrotters poning their noob opponents, and we got nothing. All right. For those of you who know about the X-Men, who know about comics, you know what the fastball special is. You've got Colossus, this giant metal monster of a man, and he palms Wolverine, this indestructible killing machine, and he palms him and he launches them through the air at an opponent, which is devastating because Wolverine isn't supposed to fly, and here he is. He's flying at you at high speeds, and he's indestructible, and he's looking to wipe you out. That's devastating. That's teamwork. And if for whatever reason you manage to duck or dive or survive Wolverine's onslaught, I'm sure that Colossus isn't just standing there waiting to see the results. He's probably charging at you to create a well-timed backup attack, right? So you got a brutal combination there. That's teamwork, and that's what I was expecting from the Avengers, and I got nothing even remotely like that. So that was really disappointing and really irksome. And and then there's in the Battle of Wakanda, there's this dome shield, and I'm really questioning how that thing worked. Like, okay, the monsters, they're hitting this energy shield, and the energy shield is like chopping them up and kind of like cutting slash burning them. But then they start getting through. So how the fuck did they start getting through? I mean, is it because the ones getting through were bigger? Doesn't wouldn't that mean that they're more susceptible to being cut because they're a bigger target? And then I was like, okay, so maybe because they were piling up, maybe they kind of like in a huddle or a scrum, they were just like the ones getting through were kind of ducking underneath the dead ones. So the dead ones were taking the brunt of the punishment. So they were ducking underneath and getting through that way. But that doesn't make any sense either, because the pile up only works if there's dead ones underneath too. And if you're alive and you push out a dead one to make room to get through, then there's nothing underneath and the pileup collapses, and then there's nothing blocking the shield, so you're getting cut anyway. And yeah, basically, you know, the law of displacement, two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. So how are the lab ones getting through without pushing out the dead ones to end up getting cut themselves anyway? It didn't make a lot of sense for me that they'd be getting through at all. And then they were like, okay, they're working their way around the sides, and we got to prevent that. So let's just open this section of the gate. And I mean, that was okay, I guess, but I'm like a nobody, and yet I would have done two very specific things. And one of them is you open the gate and you let some through, and then you close the gate behind them, and then you dogpile on those, and you wipe them out, and then you repeat the process, right? So divide and conquer. You open and shut the gate to let just enough in to get wiped out, and then that way you bottleneck them, and you split them up into little groups that are manageable. But they didn't do that shit. They just opened that section of the gate and they let them all in, which is stupid. And then for those of you who are Game of Thrones fans, you know about the Battle of the Bastards, what they did at the Battle of the Bastards. And if you don't know, what happened was you had two armies face off, and one of the armies got surrounded, and they got surrounded in a very specific way. The other army had full-length shields, shields that were as tall as a man, and then the guys with the shields, they made this circle, this tight circle around the other army, and then what they did was they made that shield wall, and the guys inside the shield wall were all compressed and they couldn't move around. So then the guys behind the shield wall would use spears and then chop up the guys, the enemy army within the circle, right? So now the guys within the circle are trapped. They're all penned in, and they had two options. They can either charge against the fucking shield wall and then just get knocked back and chopped up, or they can stay still and get chopped up anyway. Right? So it's like a no-win situation, and it's because and it worked because they had this shield wall. The Wakandans had shields. They had full-length shields that were also energy shields. So what do? You do a combination of both things. You work the dome section like a drawbridge. You open it and close it, and open it and close it, and then you form a shield wall in like a half moon right there at the opening, and you do the Battle of the Bastards technique, right? So you do a combination of both those things. And like I said, I'm a nobody and I figured this shit out. These guys are superheroes. And that's not even That's not even a superhero team up attack like a fastball special. That's just basic battle tactics, right? And the writers didn't think of this. Marvel didn't think of this. Nobody thought of this, and it's not in the movie. So that really sucked for me because I was expecting a lot more out of them. Like the coolest attack that happened was uh, Falcon and War Machine just blasting the opening as they're coming through, and that's just guns. You know, that's. I mean, it was cool looking and it was kind of smart, but it's the most basic attack you can pull off, and there was not much to it. Um, so there are two other aspects that I want to touch on. One is like Thanos. He shows us that he's super overpowered now, that he's got the Power Stone by taking out Thor and the Hulk in the first 3 minutes of the movie. So if he's super overpowered and he takes out Thor and Hulk in the first 3 minutes of the movie, what was the rest of the movie about? Because everybody else combined, all the other Avengers combined, might maybe equal to the strength of Thor and Hulk put together. Maybe. So, not even then, because, like, most Avengers are street level brawlers. Uh, Hawkeye, he's street level. Black Widow, she's street level. Spider-Man, I mean, he's got webs, but he's basically street level, right? Because Hulk didn't want to fight. Banner, he's street level. Iron Man or Captain America and Winter Soldier, they're basically street level, right? They got some super soldier serum formula working in their favor, but they're not that overpowered. They're basically street level. So all the rest of them combined don't match the strength of Hulk and Thor, which basically defeats the purpose of having the movie. If Thanos is that overpowered and it's established in the first 3 minutes of the movie, what's the rest of the movie about? False hope? Then you had Hulk's little fucking prank. I'm like, alright, so Hulk gets beaten, and Hulk doesn't really have a lot of intelligence. He's about Hulk smash, and Hulk angry, and sometimes Hulk sad, right? And in this movie, we're supposed to, I guess, we're supposed to believe either Hulk fear or Hulk embarrassment, right? But those don't really hold up, because Hulk fear and Hulk embarrassment, that might apply to Thanos himself, but why in the Battle of Wakanda would it apply to Thanos' lieutenants, right? Let alone the generic beast monsters. Generic beast monsters are not all, they do not all have the same power as Thanos. And even somebody as limited as the Hulk would understand that, and it would be obvious to Hulk. Now, you might say, "Oh, well, he was embarrassed." Dude, what's more embarrassing? Getting beat by Thanos, or leaving your friends hanging out to dry in front of the entire world, in front of all of Wakanda, when Thanos isn't even there? You're not gonna come out to fight beast monsters, generic beast monsters, because of embarrassment for a defeat against Thanos who isn't even there. I mean, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying the fear. I'm not buying the embarrassment. It was just another bad writing choice that ended up being a plot hole, and the plot hole was basically necessary to make sense of anything that was going on in the movie, right? Um, Now let's talk about teamwork again, real quick. In that, the only teamwork we saw was, or that I saw, really was when Strange used his portals and let Spider-Man go through the portal, punch Thanos a couple of times, and then duck back out. And that was a cool move, but punching Thanos in the face, that's it. That's the maximum plan that you could muster, even if it's improvised, right? Pretty shitty. Um, so yeah, teamwork non-existent. Everyone's overpowered or underpowered. Motivations are screwed. The powers are all screwed. The background story is screwed. Plot holes galore. And then the worst plot hole for me was, all right, Strange. He uses the time gem, the Eye of Agamotto, to see, I forget what ridiculous shit he said, like a million billion zillion outcomes, and only one of them they win, right? So okay, there's a major problem with that. The problem is that time is causal and time is linear, right? So basically, A leads to B leads to C. And what you're needing is like, okay, what you're needing is perfect timing, coordination, and cooperation for you to get to C. Like, if A is like, okay, Spider-Man, you punch Thanos 3 times in the face, and then Iron Man, you use your laser 1 time, right? So Spider-Man's punches is A, and then Iron Man's laser is B, and then that leads you to C, right? So if Spider-Man, instead of punching Thanos 3 times in the face, chooses to punch him 4 times in the face, that screws up the entire succession of events, and now you're in a different timeline, right? And then if Spider-Man gets A right, but Iron Man hits him twice with the laser instead of once, then even though they got A right, B got screwed up. So that's another timeline. That's a different ending. That's a different result. So how the hell did he explain the sequence of events to the team before Thanos arrives to get that tack perfect, right? How do you explain that? And then in the middle of a fight, in a fight against Thanos, how do you keep from screwing up? So that was super fucking convenient. Not only that, but everything on Earth has to go perfectly too. And Doctor Strange has no communication with them. So basically, Doctor Strange's plan is dicked. It's fucking impossible. It's impossible to explain. It's impossible to implement, to carry out, and the odds of it working out the way he hopes it will are also impossible. It's just useless. There's no point in him even knowing that, because there's no way they can make it work. The odds are just too ridiculous. So that's another freaking plot hole. Um, what else? You got You got the Battle of Wakanda. You got lack of teamwork. You got impossible odds. You got plot holes, and then yeah, and then you've got the studio dicking around with their rating, right? Like you've got the most overpowered, the most sadistic, the most evil supervillain in all of existence, and you've been building him up throughout the development of the entire MCU, like 15 movies over 10 years, and you don't go hard R on your rating. You try to dick around with like PG-13. So what do? You take the most sadistic, evil supervillain in all of history, and when he goes to kill people, he doesn't do it slow. He doesn't do it painfully. He like turns them into dust, and then the effect it was like a mix between dust and leaves. But I got bad eyesight, man. That shit looked like butterflies, and frankly, it it may as well have been butterflies because it was a really pussed out way to kill people, right? You're gonna wipe out half the universe because you're this evil badass, and you turn them into butterflies with zero pain. That's just fucking ridiculous. It was so ridiculous. It may as well have been another fucking plot hole, and it was done because the goddamn studio wants to keep their rating, right? So that sucked too. Um, and last but not least, in keeping with the theme of overpowered or underpowered, you've got the Vision, right? So the Vision, he's supposed to be overpowered. He's got a fucking infinity gem in his embedded in his forehead. He's like supposed to be super smart because he's this awesome robot. And then he's supposed to be invincible because he can phase out of physical being. Um, and he can fly. So he can fly. He's got an infinity stone in his body, and you can't touch his body because he can phase out. And the bad guys, they they showed what can only be explained as psychic ability, in that when they were packing, before crossing the fucking universe to fight the Avengers, who they never fought before, and to fight Vision, who they'd never fought before. They managed to bring the perfect fucking weapon to attack them and keep them from phasing. So goddamn convenient that it's another goddamn plot hole. So Vision, who's supposed to be overpowered, they get the drop on him by end up using the perfect fucking weapon on him, and it cripples him. So he turns into this curled up, winching, bubbling, crying, spitting, puking gas bag that does nothing. In fact, the Avengers practically use him as a ball to play keep away from Thanos. And this super overpowered guy is now super underpowered. He does nothing during the whole fucking movie, basically. Um. So yeah. Thor, is he overpowered when he takes this a sunblast to the face, or is he underpowered because he lost an eye to a knife? Thanos, is he overpowered because he's got one stone, or is he underpowered because he's also susceptible to knives? Mantis, is she underpowered because she basically has no strength and no skills, or is she overpowered because she's able to freeze Thanos and basically take him out of commission by herself, right? Where's the teamwork? What about Hulk? You know, are we supposed to buy that he's so embarrassed that he won't even fight generic beast monsters? Um, what about the battle tactics, right? Do you have to keep that section of the wall open, or can you close it in sections and then surround them and do a battle of the bastards tactic? All these fucking questions for me are very, 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 very valid. Um, and what it basically implies to me is that, like, at this point, before overseas sales, and before finishing its the complete cycle of its run, this movie's already made like $700 million in its opening weekend, which means by the time it finishes playing out over the next couple of weeks and then plus overseas sales, you're probably looking at $1 billion gross, $1 billion income. So now Marvel and damn Sony for its part, because of Spider-Man, and whoever the hell else, Paramount or Viacom or whoever the fuck made this movie, they're gonna look at this and say, oh, we made $1 billion. That means that this is the perfect fucking movie. That means that all the stupid fucking backgrounds, all the stupid fucking overpowered and underpowered manifestations, uh, all the stupid motivations, the bad writing, the dumb behavior, the crappy teamwork, um, the inconsistent uh, character uh, character expressions, all that stuff was gold. Let's keep doing that. Let's do that forever, because we want more $1 billion movies. So because we're fans, and because after all the since this movie is basically a culmination of a series of movies, we were practically like obligated to watch this movie, for its part. And we may have fucked up. We may have fucked up because we just cut them $1 billion check for a movie that basically sucks. So they're gonna draw all the wrong conclusions. They're gonna learn all the wrong fucking lessons, and they're gonna fuck up the sequel. You know, I'm still a fan, but I don't want the MCU to go the way of the DCEU. Right? I love Batman and I love Superman, but the fucking Justice League movies are shit. The DCEU went straight to fucking hell, and now I'm worried that because of the amount of money that they're gonna make, I'm worried that the MCU is gonna go the same route. Um, and we can't afford that. We can't afford that for two basic reasons. One is because it takes forever for these movies to come out. They're big ass productions. The amount of actors, famous actors involved, the amount of money involved, the amount of special effects companies, crews, artists involved. That's like lightning in a bottle. You're not gonna get that. You're not gonna get another fucking chance like this. It took Marvel and it took Hollywood like 50 fucking years to get to this point. And I don't want to wait another 50 fucking years before they do a reboot and get Infinity Wars right, let alone its sequel, right? So, we may have to wait 50 fucking years because of the second point, which is the general public, the non-fanboy public, the public that has never read a comic book, doesn't give a shit about fucking superheroes, you know? They've got this really waxy idea of what Hollywood was before these movies started coming out. before the fan service started getting played to, they had this really waxy idea that Hollywood was producing like fucking gems, and Hollywood was not. Okay, I don't give a fuck about British Bridges of Madison County 2. I don't give a flying fuck about Footloose, the after years, right? That's the type of shit you could probably expect if Hollywood hadn't gone this route. But just because Hollywood has gone this route, uh, and they're making money, doesn't mean that they're gonna stay this route. This can't last forever, which means that by the time they end this run, if they don't really fucking pump the brakes, if we don't really fucking hold the MCU to task to fix this fucking script, to hire decent fucking writers, and to create movies that make some kind of fucking sense, then the sequel is gonna be even worse than this fucking movie was. And because of the saturation point with the non-fanboy community, Hollywood may not fucking get a chance to fucking reboot it. And like I said, we may be dealing with 50 years down the fucking line. So that's really fucked up. It's really scary, and I'm really goddamn concerned because of the amount of money that they've made. They're gonna look at the bottom line and say, doesn't fucking matter, man. All these fucking plot holes, all that fucking shit writing, uh, none of that matters. You know, just fucking slap shit together and they'll eat it anyway. And that's not right. That's not right. We've got a limited amount of time, a limited amount of space to get these movies right, and this movie was fucked up. This movie was fucked up. Okay? The backstory, the motivations, the mentalities, uh, the you know the juxtaposition of powers versus not, overpowered and underpowered. Most of the movie did not make sense, even within the framework of fantasy fucking fiction, and that's hard to fucking do, and they did it, and it's bad. It's really fucking bad. So uh, I think I covered everything. Let's see: Mantis, Spider-Man, Strange, the glove, the backstory, the powers, the inconsistencies, the lack of battle tactics, all that shit. It was all fucked up. Now it's your turn. Comment down below if you agree with some of the things I've said. Comment down below if you think I'm stupid and wrong. Comment down below if you think cutting the studio $1 billion check for this shit show is a good thing or a bad thing. Hit like, subscribe, reshare this video, or don't. That's totally up to you. But you know where my channel is, so you know where to find me. And in the future, I'll do more vlog style videos, but I will try to start, making them around 10 minutes. I'm not stupid. I know how YouTube's algorithm works, and I know that people have shit to do. So this is a vlog. This was a movie review. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. I hope it wasn't too scattered, and I hope that you find some kind of value in my observations, because it really did bug me. I am a big fan, and I really wanted to enjoy this movie, and I did not enjoy this movie because it should have been a great deal more than it was, and I think they really kind of phoned it in. So I'm now concerned for whether or not they phoned in Deadpool. I was already concerned over what I've seen in the trailers for Venom. And now I'm if if either of those two movies are shit shows, I'm super super concerned as to what Infinity War 2 is going to be like. Uh, that's it for now. I will see you next time. Thanks for hanging out, and remember to comment below. I will answer your comments, and we can chat about this. But yeah, if you think I'm right, then help me with the studio. They're really gonna be happy with themselves while they're counting their money, and we got to get them to pump the brakes. Otherwise, Infinity War 2 is gonna be uh, a, a basket full of crap, and I don't want that to happen. So once again, thank you for joining me, and we will see you next time.